In 1997, Steve Jobs walked into Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference and did something that shocked everyone in the room. He killed OpenDoc. He killed Newton. He killed Cyberdog. Project after project gone. Engineers who had spent years on these technologies were furious. Some confronted him directly during the Q&A. One developer stood up and essentially accused Jobs of destroying their work without understanding it. Jobs paused. Then he said something that changed how I think about focus. People think focus means saying yes to the thing you got to focus on. But that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that we come across. Within months, Jobs cut Apple's product line from 350 products to just 10. Apple was weeks away from bankruptcy at that time. Within a decade, it would have become the most valuable company on earth. Hi, my name is Anil Jaisingh. I'm the chief product manager of a thriving training and consulting business called Concepts and Beyond. I'm also a certified Scrum trainer with Scrum Alliance and an adjunct professor at the NYU graduate program of project management. Here's what nobody tells you about saying no. It's not about being difficult. It's about not being stubborn. It's about understanding that every yes you give is a no to something else. And most of us have been getting that math wrong our entire careers. A product manager on Reddit spoke about data showing exactly why their company couldn't pursue a particular feature. Customer feedback opposed it. Usage metrics did not support it. The business case was weak. So they said no to the CFO who wanted it built. And they were right. The data backed it up. The people who said no, they all got fired. Not because they were wrong, but because of how they said no. When I first heard this story, I thought it was unfair. The product managers doing their job. They had the evidence. Why should they have to play politics? Just do the right thing. But then I started thinking about all the times I've seen this pattern play out. The people who say no effectively are the ones with better data. They are the ones who understand something fundamental. A no that damages the relationship isn't actually a no. It's a bombshell that's waiting to blow up. And here's what makes this so hard. Most of us were raised to believe that no equals rejection. No means conflict. No means you're not a team player. In reality, saying no is about focus. When you protect your time and priorities, you're actually protecting the quality of everything you touch. A frustrated yes, followed by a mediocre execution, damages trust far more than a thoughtful, honest no ever would. But knowing that intellectually and actually doing it when your CEO is staring at you across the conference table, those are different things. Warren Buffett once said, something that sounds almost absurd until you really sit with it. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. Buffett built one of the largest fortunes in human history, largely by saying no. No to tech stocks that he did not understand. No to opportunities outside his circle of competence. No to strategies that worked for others but did not fit his approach. People criticized him for decades for missing these opportunities. What they did not notice was that he also missed the tech burst and the dot-com collapse and countless other disasters that wiped out investors who couldn't say no. The mindset shift isn't about becoming difficult or uncooperative. It's about recognizing a truth that most people avoid. You cannot do everything well. Every commitment you make draws from the same limited pool of time, energy, and attention. So instead of thinking, I'm letting them down, when you need to decline something, ask yourself, how can I be genuinely helpful while staying true to my existing commitments? That reframe matters because it moves you from guilt to clarity, from avoidance to honesty, from people pleasing to actually value creation. When you say yes to everything, you become someone whose yes means nothing. When you say no with intention, your yes actually carries weight. Let me share a story from Harvard Business Review about a sales manager who faced a situation most of us would handle badly. Leadership handed her a target, 23% growth over the previous year. Sounds ambitious, but reasonable, right? Here's the problem. Achieving that target would require every single person on a team to improve their performance by 38%. The best improvement anyone on the team had ever achieved in any year was 11%. The math literally didn't work. But how do you tell that to executives who've already committed to the number? Here's what she didn't do. She didn't just say, that's impossible. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't complain to her team about unrealistic leadership. Instead, she brought the numbers. She laid out exactly what hitting that target would require. She explained that chasing it would force short-term tactics that would hurt customer satisfaction and long-term growth. Then she asked a simple question. Is there room to revisit this target, given these trade-offs? She framed her no as protecting the business, not avoiding hard work. And here's what's critical to understand. This approach works because it changes the conversation. You're not saying I can't or I want. You're saying, here's what this would actually cost. Most stakeholders, when they understand the real trade-offs, will reconsider. Not because you push back, but because you made a case and you made the consequences visible. A 2025 article in the Harvard Business Review introduced something called a strategic refusal matrix. I want to walk you through how it works because this is the most practical tool I've found for navigating these conversations. I'll give you a situation. A chief revenue officer was under enormous pressure to hit aggressive targets tied to an acquisition. Miss the sales target and the deal would fall apart. But the targets were frankly unrealistic. Instead of either accepting blindly or refusing flatly, the CRO categorized every initiative into 4 buckets based on strategic importance and feasibility. First bucket, commit. High importance, high feasibility. These get a yes. Second bucket, renegotiate. High importance, but the current ask isn't feasible. You say yes to the goal, but propose a different path to get there. Third bucket, deprioritize. Lower importance, feasibility varies. These get pushed down the list in favor of what matters more. Fourth bucket, decline. Low strategic importance and difficult to execute. These get a clear no. What made the CRO successful wasn't just having the framework, it was how they used it. When they said no, they exposed the trade-offs. We can hit that number if we really want to, but we would need to cut down product development significantly. Are we okay with that? They never said that's a bad idea. They said, here's what this idea would cost us. The distinction matters enormously. When you reject an idea, people get defensive. When you make transparent the trade-offs, people can make informed decisions. And often, they'll reach the same conclusions you did without you having to fight them on it. Here's what gets tricky. The examples I just shared involve people with significant organizational power. What if you're not a CRO or a senior manager? What if you're a mid-level product manager or a designer trying to push back on a client? Melissa Perry talks about how relationships between product managers and stakeholders is fundamentally broken in most organizations. Product managers see stakeholders as obstacles. Stakeholders see product managers as either saviors or gatekeepers. Neither view is accurate, but both create terrible dynamics. Stakeholders are responsible for informing your decisions. They have specialized knowledge and context that can make your product better, but they shouldn't be the ones making product decisions. That's your job. When a sales director wants a feature to close a deal, they're not wrong to advocate for it. Sales directors should advocate for what helps sales. Your job is to weigh that input against everything else you know and make the best possible decision for the product. When you need to decline something, acknowledge that perspective first. I understand this feature would help close the Acme deal and appreciate you bringing it to me. Then be transparent about your constraints. We currently focused on infrastructure work that affects all customers, not just one. Then, and this is key, offer something else. Could we explore a workaround that addresses Acme's core need without a full feature build? This works because you're not dismissing their concern. You're showing them that you heard it, you considered it, and you're offering an alternative path forward. I want to share an example from an interior design firm. Published guidance from design professionals on how to tell clients no when their request would hurt the project. And what's fascinating is how much it mirrors what works in product management and business. Imagine a client wants to make a change that would blow the budget, violate building codes, or create quality problems. You can't just say yes to keep them happy, but a flat no damages the relationship. The approach that works, start by emphasizing with their disappointment. I understand this is frustrating. I wish I could make it work. Then explain factual, concrete reasons why you can't. Not that I don't like it, but this would violate the structural requirements or this material won't hold up in your climate. Alternatively, and in addition, propose alternatives. Here are 2 options that will keep your vision intact while staying on budget. That last part transforms the conversation. You're not the person who said no. You're the person who found a different path to what they actually want to do. I've seen the same pattern work in tech, in consulting, in healthcare, and in education. The specifics change, but the structure stays the same. Acknowledge, explain, and offer alternatives. Let me return to that product manager who got fired for saying no to the CFO. The Reddit thread discussing this was very, very illuminating. Commenters pointed out that while the product manager was probably right on the substance, The way they push back may have doomed them. They framed every rejection as a hard stop rather than a conversation. They made the CFO feel stupid rather than informed. One commentator suggested what they could have done differently. Instead of saying the data shows this won't work, they could have asked, help me understand the strategic goal here. Is there something I'm missing about why this matters now versus something else? The same underlying concern, completely different dynamics. Another commenter on Reddit recommended the yes, but framing. Yes, we could build this, but here's what it would cost us in other priorities. Which of these should we deprioritize to make room? The hard truth is that being right doesn't protect you if you make powerful people feel foolish. It's not fair, I know, but it's also reality. The most effective communicators I've seen don't say of saying no as winning an argument. They think of it as helping people. They think of it as helping someone else reach a better conclusion. And that subtle difference in framing changes everything about how the conversation goes. There's another dimension to saying no that we don't talk about enough. The personal cost of saying yes to everything. Every yes is a withdrawal from the energy account. Too many withdrawals and you're running on empty. And when you're depleted, the quality of everything suffers. Your work, your relationships, your health. I have watched colleagues burn out because they couldn't say no. They thought of being a good team member meant absorbing every request that came their way. Scattered energy produces scattered results. When you stop saying yes to every urgent favor, you can actually focus on the projects that move your career or your business forward. Productivity is about what matters most, and what matters most requires protected time and focused attention. So when you decline something, you're protecting your ability to deliver excellence on the things you've already committed to. Here's something that separates good communicators from great ones. What they do after they say no. A few weeks after you decline something, check back in. Hey, how did the project go? Let me know if you need any input next time. This does two things. First, it shows that your boundary wasn't a barrier to the relationship. You still care about their success even when you couldn't help directly. Second, it positions you as a long-term ally rather than a short-term obstacle. Over time, people start to appreciate your honesty and consistency. They learn that when you say no, there's a reason. And when you say yes, you mean it. And they begin seeking you out, specifically because they trust you and your judgment. That's the paradox of saying no effectively. It actually builds stronger relationships than constantly saying yes, because people know exactly where they stand with you. Sometimes stakeholders or clients will ask for things that cross ethical or legal lines. Maybe it's finding numbers. Maybe it's cutting corners or safety. Maybe it's something that would harm customers or violate regulations. In these situations, you're not weighing trade-offs or looking for creative alternatives. You're protecting something more important than a single relationship or an opportunity. Forbes Business Council collected stories from leaders about declining requests that conflicted with ethics, legal boundaries, or core capabilities. The consistent theme being respectful but absolutely firm. One contributor put it in this way: clients and executives generally appreciate a courteous and clear refusal when professional standards are at stake. It shows you value integrity over short-term revenue. And ironically, that builds more trust than compliance. Let me give you a framework that will work. Step 1, acknowledge the request. Make the other person feel heard. Thank them. Thank you for thinking of me, and I can see why this matters to you. Step 2, be transparent about your constraints. Not vague excuses, but specific realities. I'm currently committed to 3 projects that have hard deadlines. Our team is at capacity until the end of the quarter. Offer an alternative. This could be a different person, a different timeline, or a different workaround. You might reach out to Sarah. She's doing great work in this area. Or could we revisit this in 6 weeks when my current work gets done? Step 4, stand firm with empathy. If they push back, calmly restate your position. I want to give this the attention it deserves, and I generally don't have the bandwidth right now. Notice what's absent from this framework: defensiveness, excuses, elaborate justifications. Jobs returned to Apple in 1997 and immediately started saying no. No to products, no to projects, no to opportunities that seemed perfectly reasonable. Within a year, Apple was profitable again. Within a decade, they launched the iPod, the iPhone, and the iPad. Later, Jobs told Nike CEO Mark Palmer, Nike makes some of the best products in the world, products that you lust after, but you also make a lot of crap. Just get rid of the crappy stuff and focus on the good stuff. Every time you say yes to something unaligned, you're saying no to something that matters more. Your priorities, your energy, your peace of mind. If you like this video, please use your energy to like it and subscribe to my channel for many more such videos that can be really helpful to you. The art of saying no isn't about building walls. It's about building bridges on foundations of truth and trust. I'll see you next time.